Let's talk. I wanna talk about Meta today. There's another compute deal happening, and it seems that there's another cloud business that's about to appear onto this market. So, for those who don't know, it's another multi-billion-dollar announcement that Meta is effectively creating its own clouds and AI compute business that it's going to rent out to other. It's not exactly clear who the customers are going to be. You can assume it's going to be some combination of the hyperscalers and enterprise in general. So, I mean, we've talked about, SpaceX doing something similar, Google doing something similar. But what was your reaction? I think, I want to get your take, because I think Meta is a little bit different in that it's a little bit less clear on what their AI strategy even is in the first place versus the others. So, I want to hear from you. When you read that, what was your reaction?
Yeah, genuinely, I felt. And I initially wasn't sure how to feel about it. And I just thought about Team One. It feels a little bit all of Meta's strategy right now. Feels a little bit all over the place, and it kind of seemed like they're just trying to see what sticks. And I'm like, they're not really sure what sticks. And you can see from the whole conversation we've had around Meta generally in the AI space, from trying to even decide how best to trade their models. Like, it's 2026 and they're not even sure the best way to train their models. And they had the conversation where Zuckerberg convo leaked and saying they're getting their engineers to now do the training and like
labeling.
So the engineers are now labeling, now doing labeling. And recently they came back and said they've paused it because of they want to get some things right. But it just shows the general atmosphere and like the fact that they don't really know exactly what way to go. And I think it's because they're saying that they're really behind and they're just trying to figure, is there any shortcut they can take? So anyway, to come to the actual convo around them doing what we call neo clouds. So basically what they're trying to do now is they've spent so much on CapEx, so much. And they're the only ones not really getting as much back from it. And so they've decided that they probably saw what SpaceX did, and they were like, well, we like that. Because they need to prove to investors some way, somehow, that they're getting the returns back. Right now, no one would really pay for a Meta model. They recently released one model that they said was doing decently well, but the way the market is if you're not top one, top two, it's hard to get people to switch over back to you. Yeah. So they decided that one way to mitigate their losses right now and make sense of all the money they've spent is to do neo cloud, and they do it through some third party. I don't remember the name of the company now. But basically, it's not like your typical cloud where they host services for you. Here they just literally rent the computers to you. And right now it's high margin, to be fair. Normally it wouldn't be, but it's high margin just because of how constrained and the amount of strain on compute that we have right now. So they've seen this is high margin. This is probably the best way for them to make some of their money back. And they've decided to go into this. Really, I genuinely think it is bearish because I don't think, while you'll make some quick buck, I don't think that's what was going to give you the long-term dominance in the market. They'll make some quick buck. They'll be able to put some things on their next annual reports. Like they made some money back. Same thing SpaceX did before they raised, so they could say, oh, well, we've got this new ARR, some sketchy math. But I don't think it's what's going to give it the long-term dominance. Eventually, companies are going to be able to open more and like invest more in their own stuff, and then they'll start to win. No one is going to want to keep paying that. They're going to win off you eventually, and then it also means that you're not able to use your compute to train your own models. So it also locks you as well, because now you've got someone using your own compute, so you can't actually train your models at the same level that the people you're competing with are training their models. So I think all in all is probably the best situation, the best outcome from a bad situation, but it's not really where they want to be. And I think if you ask Zuckerberg today, what would you prefer? Frontier model or selling cloud compute? They'll tell you, yeah, give me frontier model. Genuinely, I think he's going to say that. That's my take.
unimpressed.
Let me hear it.
I know when JB's unimpressed, John is unimpressed. Look, I think the initial question that everyone asked at first is, you spent the last 2.5 years telling us how constrained you are for compute. You're now saying you want to sell excess capacity. How do we reconcile those two narratives? And I think for those who are a little bit closer to the situation, they probably started to understand that the most compute-intensive tasks are really developing those frontier models. In the same way I took it, my interpretation, the same way with SpaceX, was that they're probably, at this point, they're probably conceding some sort of defeat on that frontier layer.
Yeah. They
probably feel too far behind and say the investment, the capex, in order to get there is probably too much. What's the alternative? And I think something interesting, timing-wise, it's always curious. Mark went back on Twitter after years or however long it was and started talking about how effectively they're now going to try and compete on price. And I think it might have gone slightly under the radar, but he's basically saying we're going to price this really aggressively, almost Amazon style. Yeah, and saying, fine. He didn't say in those words that we might not have the frontier capability, but we're going to, go aggressive on price. What's the saying? If you can't join them, bleed them. Because effectively what he's going to do there, and this is, an attack on the OpenAI and Anthropics directly, is he's basically going to say, fine, your models are better than ours. We've got a lot more cash than you do. We don't need to make great margin on this. We're going to try and just undercut you so much that people, they accept the trade-off for slightly lower capability because it's so much cheaper. We can afford to do that and you can't. And the way that we aggressively outcompete you is that we get the actual margin from this cloud business. And I think the cloud business for me is a fascinating one, because I was bullish on this sector from as soon as, again, 2023, as soon as you could see where this was going and where the demand was going, because these constraints are not going anywhere over the next 3-4 years. The constraint on land, the constraint on power, the constraint on compute, less so, but still a constraint as well. And also now the constraint on capital as well. You now need almost 100 billion to build a gigawatt data center right now, all in all. So you
memory as well.
So you put all those 4 or 5 massive choke points together at once. There's really not many businesses who can quickly build a cloud business today, or an AI and neo cloud business today. There's really not. Yeah. So for the next 3 or 4 years, because of the lead time, remember, we just talked about all those constraints, but what that actually means in terms of a lead time is, if I now want to create a gigawatt powered data center, connected powered data center, it's not just 100 billion, you're looking at 6 or 7 years because of the lead time to get everything, to get the energy, to get the generators, to get the land, to get the space. If you're trying to build it from scratch, you're trying to buy it, whatever it is, you're looking at multiple years. So we almost know we're in a really unique period in history, in that we know of almost certainty that the next few years, that's going to be a high margin business. Everyone's been living in software land the last 30 years where you can just quickly go and scale everything, and it's hard to predict what's going to happen. We know with almost certainty. Yeah, we know with almost certainty that bottleneck, that choke point, that constraint is going to continue for the next 3 years because of that lead time. There's not an obvious solution to that today, at least. So I look at what Meta are doing, I look at what the clouds are doing, and whilst it's funny, there was a period where everyone was saying, oh, this is a capex intensive, it's an asset heavy business, they're not going to make any margins or any money. We've gone from that narrative to this is the highest margin layer of the whole AI trade right now. Yeah. If we don't know what we're going to do, let's just buy a bag of compute. And we know that we'll be able to run it at a crazy margin. Yeah. And even when Meta's talking about pricing aggressively on the model layer, as I was saying, because they know that they've got this compute layer, which is almost guaranteed to be a high margin business if you can get the capacity, it almost feels like a no-brainer. It gives them the fungibility, that is what they talk about. Really, it gives them the flexibility that, fine, if they go and deploy a model that don't work, or they then have some idle capacity, they can make a bunch of bread off it. So it's almost, you can almost see it as risk management hedging against the risk of models not working. But one thing about Mark is he is a smart capital allocator. He went and had his attack at Apple about not innovating. A lot of people are leveraging the same questions at him, saying, where's the meta innovation? But one thing you cannot argue about with Mark is he is an expert capital allocator. Acquisitions, building the ecosystem, using that to get to 3 billion, effectively profitable users. You got to put respect on his name.
The allocation in the metaverse, though.
Oh! See, this is what they do. This is what they do. They think because, listen, when you innovate, some things are going to flop. Everyone knows that, man. Some things are going to flop, man. They spent billions and it didn't work. But at the end of the day...
Took his L.
Yeah, they took the L. But look, they bought Instagram. They bought WhatsApp. What else have they done? They made... And fine, these are inorganic, but ultimately, they found opportunities that became... globally significant opportunities at a time when there was questions if they would even make money.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the metaverse. Name me another company that has 3 billion users, bro.
Yeah.
So like, again, yes, it's slightly bearish specifically on that model development and capability development. Is it, bearish for the sector, which was a question that a lot of people were asking, right? If there's excess computing capacity, is this AI thing even, is it even that? Is the demand even that much? What we're actually seeing is that the demand is so great that they are prioritizing it to an extent over their own in-house capabilities because they can make so much bread off it. So, look, that's how I look at the whole trade. That's how I look at Meta,
I wonder if them going into the Neo Cloud is also going to, while yes, it helps the industry generally, but I wonder if that also affects the margins, because to be fair, there's not many people that can go into it. But right now, it seems like SpaceX has started doing it. If more people start to come into it, if there's more availability, obviously there's more bargaining. And I'm sure they have a lot of compute to bring in because they did a mad racking up. So if they're bringing more into the market, does that then mean the current... To be fair, right now there's really high margin. So it can go from really high margin to high margin.
Yeah.
It's still high margin, but it'll probably bring down the margin a little bit.
I just think when you look at the lead time though, even I'm curious to see how quickly they even get this gigawatt or whatever of power stood up. You're looking at least 18 months anyway. So it depends what your time horizon is, right? In the next 24 months, I don't really see if anything, I just see it continuing to rise. I think after that, you'll see something interesting where potentially there's a little bit of a flood. But I keep just zooming out again. The use cases of what people are using AI now for are so early.
It's just gonna increase.
We're in the equivalent of the AOL dial-up phase of the internet. That's the equivalent of what we're in now of AI. So yes, when you look ahead to 28, 29, there might be a flood of new memory capacity. There might be a flood of new GPU
way more
capacity.
use cases.
Yeah, there may be more data centers. But the use cases, I just think the constraint is going to, if anything, I think the choke point is going to get even tighter because I think the demand is going to continue to outstrip the supply.
I see that.
Time will tell, man.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. You had it in first. Those through the messenger.
Yep, we shoot the messenger.